Hello, welcome to our very first episode of the Talent Podcast. My name's Drew. I will be hosting today's podcast, and you'll probably hear me in future ones also. I'm actually part of the talent team here within Life Plus, so it's quite interesting to be able to talk around different things that will impact individuals, colleagues, people that work here, and sharing it with you. So, as I said, we'll be touching on a range of different topics throughout the year, but today we wanted to address and delve a little more into World Day for Safety and Health at Work. So, this day is an annual international campaign which promotes safe, healthy, and decent work. So, we thought that'd be a really awesome place to start for our very first podcast to kind of talk about what Life Plus is doing to promote a safe, healthy, and decent working environment. To support me with this discussion and share a little about kind of what we're doing as a business, we've got Graham and Karen. So first of all, thank you both for joining me. It's great to have you here and great to sort of introduce you as our very first guests. I guess to start with, it would be fantastic to kind of pass the mic over to you to give our listeners a bit of an idea of who you are, what you do, and how health and safety is a big part of your role.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name's Graham Penny, and I'm the Purchasing and Facilities Manager for Life Plus. Obviously, health and safety fits into the facilities part of my role in quite a big way. The health and safety of the business and its employees is obviously very important to us, and I play a key role in the health and safety committee that we have within the business. So yeah, it's very key to facilities in quite a lot of aspects, really.
Thank you, Graham. And Karen?
I'm Karen Hart. I'm the facilities team manager. And as Graham said, obviously health and safety plays quite a large part of my role. I get involved in lots of the risk assessments and the audits for the business across all the sites, logging the accidents and the near misses that go on within the buildings. So yeah, it's something that crops up every day within the role that I do.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you both for introducing yourself there. So let's jump straight into it then. So why is health and safety in the workplace so important?
Oh, well, it's really important in the workplace. It has lots of benefits to colleagues, creating a positive culture and attitude within the business around health and safety from sort of the top down really helps embed it into the business and just makes for a much better working environment for all colleagues. It protects the well-being of the employees and visitors and contractors, anybody that comes to our sites. And enables a much nicer working environment. And it also demonstrates that the business values the colleagues that work within it. If there's a good standard of health and safety, if it's really got clear guidance on its approach, then you can be sure that it takes it seriously and that it's looking out for the colleagues' welfare in all aspects. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I echo what Karen's just said, and there are benefits to the business as well as the colleagues. First of all, we have a legal duty to comply with the Health and Safety at Work Act, and we do this through a number of ways. And the committee, as I mentioned earlier, is one of those ways of ensuring that we comply. The benefits also help us to prevent serious injury or loss of life to our colleagues, and gives us a platform and a vehicle really to make sure that they're kept safe whilst working for the company. It reduces the costs to the business, indirect costs from people being off sick or being injured. And obviously that's important to the business. And I think it goes a long way to helping us retain staff. If people are aware that we've got a really good health and safety culture, we take health and safety seriously, and we go out of our way to keep our colleagues safe, then that's a long way to helping us retain important staff.
That's amazing. Thank you. So obviously we touched quite a bit on sort of what the benefits of health and safety are to colleagues, and then obviously to the wider business, which is absolutely fantastic. But what I'd like to do now is maybe just talk a little bit more in detail about, what have been the latest health and safety initiatives that we've implemented. Graham, I don't know if this is something you wanted to lead on.
Yeah, sure. Most of the initiatives that we've implemented recently have obviously been around the COVID pandemic. One of the big initiatives we've put in is the virus neutralizer machines, which improve the air quality in the area that they're placed. They basically change the air in the room 10 times an hour, and the air passes through some UV lighting, which kills viruses and obviously kills COVID-19. We also have introduced a number of safety measures at all the buildings with our other colleagues, notably the logistics people at Priory Point, who have helped us introduce one-way systems, working bubbles, social distancing of desks and communal areas, and then obviously moving on from that, everyone's been working at home, so that's been a massive help in reducing the spread of COVID in our buildings. And lastly, we've been taking people's temperatures when they arrive at our buildings for nearly a year now, and we were doing this with an ear thermometer, but we've progressed now onto an IVMS facial recognition system, which can be connected to our access control system, and indeed that is the case at Priory Point. So not only does it take your temperature, recognise who you are, it can also allow you into the building.
Amazing, thank you. So it sounds like we've implemented quite a bit, and some really big positive changes that have needed to be put in place, and it sounds like that is going to impact the business very positively. But obviously there's been such a range, such a large number of changes that have come about for said reasons, mainly COVID. What have you kind of found, or how have you found that challenge to have to react so quickly and implement so many changes?
I'll be quite honest with you. I think in the early stages it was quite
Manic.
Yeah, it was it was all hands to the pump, and we were doing things pretty much in a kind of what we got to do now kind of basis. There wasn't a plan. It was just, let's do this, or can we do that, or have we put this in place? Sarah helped in that respect when she was in HR, and asked for things to be implemented, and along with the other managers in the management team. So I think it was very manic at first, but slowly but surely I feel that we then started to understand what we're doing as we understood more about the virus and the ways that it can be contracted and what we had to do to keep people safe. That slowly became kind of clear what we had to do, and so therefore I think it became easier to implement things. I think it was key that we had senior management backing us.
It was an evolution as well. I think nobody obviously knew, we hadn't got a blueprint, so we didn't know what was coming. So initially we had as much trouble getting hold of PPE as the rest of the world did, because everybody wanted it, and not being a sort of a health service direct link to the NHS made it quite difficult. So I think in the first few days it really was a scramble, and nobody we didn't know what we were doing. We were just doing whatever we could.
And picking up on the PPE, and I think it shows kind of the benefits of working together as a business. We were able to source face masks from China using contacts that were given to us by our colleagues in America. So it's not something that you just do yourself. You rely on colleagues to lend a helping hand, and I think that's kind of how we were able to get PPE for the business.
Lovely, thank you. So we've kind of touched on kind of what that process was like in terms of I guess how it's felt for you guys implementing and putting together, you know, the procedures and bits in place to ensure that safe working environment. Obviously, once you've put something in place, once something's changed, how are we keeping our colleagues informed of these changes so that when they come back into the office, they kind of know the things that we've done to make sure that they are within a safe working environment?
Well, we try to use as many different platforms as possible so that we can engage with as many people as possible. Inspire newsletter is quite a good platform for us. We put articles in there, features, updates, and try and keep everybody updated with the big things that we're doing. Obviously, you know, there's lots of little things that happen. We will work with the engagement team to send out emails. Normally, if something's sort of imminent or something that's sort of happened quite quickly, that, you know, we don't have time to go through the process of the Inspire article, we'll use engagement to send something out. That can be, you know, if we've got a contractor on site that needs to close off access to something, so we'll use those. Recently, we have made some videos, demonstration videos, specifically one around DSE assessments, and that actually landed really well because we were able to demonstrate to people exactly what they should be doing to make sure they were working safely and comfortably. Building inductions is quite a good one as well. When people initially come back to the building, we will carry out building inductions, and it's an opportunity for us to let them know of any changes that have happened in the building. As you can imagine, recently with COVID, there are lots of new things that have been implemented, one-way systems, your social distancing. So the induction when they return gives us the opportunity to put out all those new measures that we've got and to just talk them through them. Risk assessments is something that we do around certain tasks. We'll have a risk assessment, one of which manual handling is quite a common one that people will know, and, you know, even down to the point of changing the water bottle or the water machines, correct manual handling. So a risk assessment is done for those. Certainly in the warehouse, we'll have safe systems of work and standard operating procedures for the guys in there that are using certain bits of kit and machinery. And toolbox talks are another way of getting a message across. If maybe there's an issue, it's a way of having to reaffirm the way that a certain piece of equipment will work, and it's, you can capture everybody at once, so that if there's any other discussion or if there's any points that the colleagues want to raise, they can raise it at that point and it can be addressed in one opportunity. So yeah, lots of different ways that we try and engage with people to make sure that we can capture everybody.
Thank you, that's fantastic. So just to go back on a point actually, and just to talk a little bit more and share a little bit more information around that induction piece. So I've been working from home for the entirety of the time where we've been able to work from home. And there has been a couple of occasions where I've needed to pop into the office to do work or said stuff. So when I remember the induction was really great, and, you know, it was amazing to see kind of the changes that had been implemented and the processes that were in place to ensure that working environment was safe, and it made me feel a lot more comfortable about being out working outside of my home environment, which was really lovely for me. But obviously that's feedback from just me, just one person. So what has kind of the general feedback been from other colleagues? Has it been positive? Like what's been the general feel?
I think the reaction that we've had mostly is very similar to yourself. The buildings, certainly sort of Life Plus House and Keppel House, they have changed. We have had to change the way we are working at the moment through COVID. Whether everything that we've implemented will stay, or whether we will then sort of evolve back to how we were before, is yet to be seen. But at the moment, certainly the social distancing, the movement around the buildings, you know, how you know, the staircases even in some buildings are one up, one down. There's lots of changes, and I think the response that we get is very similar to yourselves. It is a new way of working, and it takes some time for people to kind of get their head round, but it does look very different, and I think that's what kind of draws you back to remember what we are living in the middle of this pandemic, and we are doing everything we possibly can to keep everybody safe, but also allow them to return to some sort of business as usual, to allow us to start sort of getting back on the road to normality.
I was just going to echo what Karen's just said, and affirm that the feedback that we've had from staff, colleagues around the measures that have been introduced, I think has been very positive. I've not heard anybody have a negative thing really to say about the measures that have been introduced, and I think everybody who's come back to the buildings have been very supportive and recognise and understand why those measures are in place.
We have had people that were nervous about coming back, reserved about coming back because they were concerns around COVID. But as Graham said, I think every one of those has been very pleasantly surprised and has continued to work and feel comfortable within their surroundings.
I think as well, when staff do come back and they see the areas and the effort that the business has gone to separate desks and build these collab spaces, really to enable people to work in a socially distanced manner, I think again, it'll have a positive impact on staff when they come into the building.
And just to touch on the collab spaces as well, which I think is a really awesome thing. I think actually it does link quite nicely into the whole, maybe more the health aspect of things. And I guess as a culture, Life Plus is very much that people facing kind of environment, isn't it? Where everyone kind of goes and works together, talks together, and obviously working from home, that's been quite tricky. So I guess having them spaces is going to be, well, I guess help us all to kind of re-engage with each other as well and see each other in a safe environment, like you said. So I think that's a really positive change that I think the company's made. One of the other things I just wanted to go back on as well is back to that kind of health and safety piece, I suppose. And we talked a little bit about them sort of risk assessments, and we've made the office space safe, which is awesome. But there are a lot of people working from home. So I guess how and what have we kind of done to ensure people are safe and comfortable working from their home space in their working environment?
So we have done quite a bit of work. I think where we've sort of centered a lot of it is around DSE, which is it's a legal requirement for us to carry out, which is it stands for display screen equipment, which it doesn't really describe it very well, but it's about the environment that you work in. It's about how your desk is set up, how your chair's set up, how you're sitting, whether you have the right equipment, and that it's actually been set up for you specifically. You're not sitting at a generic in a generic space, that the chair's at the right height. And we've worked quite closely with lots of people. I'm sure people are aware there's been lots of surveys home about what equipment do you have, what equipment do you need. We have supported people to purchase desks if they don't have a suitable platform to work on at home. We have also supported people to purchase chairs to ensure that it's got the right adjustments, the seat height adjusts, the backrest adjusts, there's lumbar support. We've done lots of work around there. We have shipped many pieces of equipment to people's homes. Our maintenance guy worked tirelessly for months, making sure that everybody had got laptop risers, keyboards, wrist rests, just to try and make sure that environment at home, whilst it is nice to be looking at your living room window, is suitable for you to work in for however many hours a day you're looking at your screen or sitting at your chair. So we've done lots of work with all teams all across the board, with making their area as suitable as possible.
I think it's also important to touch on some of the work done by other colleagues around the mental health side of things, and making sure that there's enough information out there and enough kind of initiatives and stuff to get involved in to try and ensure that you keep a healthy mind and your mental health doesn't suffer through working from home.
A really great point, actually, Graham, about sort of the mental health side of things. I think actually, although we've talked a lot about health and safety, I think if we look at the day, that health aspect is a really core aspect as well, and mental health does fall within that area. So yeah, I think we do have, like you said, we do have the resources within the business. We've got loads of mental health first aiders, which is really positive as well. But yeah, really good point to touch on there.
I think the engagement team as well have done various exercise classes, and there've been sort of coffee mornings where you can drop in with various executive team members to just chat through, and just because it's that interaction sometimes that people miss. We can do the work set up and that's great, but it sometimes it is just that office chit chat and that sort of knowing person across the room at the desk opposite that you can chat to, that will maybe pick up if you're not quite as your usual bouncy self. So there have been some really good pieces of work done over Zoom to try and engage people and still make them feel included in that office environment. So
another really good point, actually, Karen, and yeah, I can completely agree. We talked earlier about the culture of the business being very, well, before very much that face to face. You go and have a conversation with someone, you go and enjoy a water cooler moment, if you like, and have a bit of a chat and see how people are doing. But instead, we've had to kind of adjust and adapt a little bit to that. And I think, yeah, you've touched on a number of things that we've done there. And we could probably mention quite a few more. But yeah, just quite good to see kind of what we've done so far as a collective.
Just something I wanted to say, which I think is important, is that once colleagues do start coming back to work, our work isn't over. There's a lot that we've got to do to continue to keep people safe. One of those is obviously to maintain social distancing. We have a lot of work to do in making sure that we don't have too many people in each buildings. We have to do a lot of work around managing the numbers. It's quite tricky, but Karen and her team are doing a good job in doing that. But it goes on. It's not just going to stop until it actually stops. But basically, once people come back to work, we are still under the kind of COVID curse, if you like, and we've still got to manage it, and we've still got to keep people safe.
Another really good point there, Graham. I think, yeah, like you said, the job is never done when it comes to sort of the safety and health of people within a working environment. But yeah, I think we've definitely implemented and put in place so many procedures, especially over the last year or so, that will really positively impact those within the business, so all of us as colleagues. But yeah, it's been absolutely wonderful speaking with you both. Thank you so much for your time and your efforts. And yeah, I'm sure people are going to find it really interesting to kind of see what we've been up to and how we've ensured that we make sure we've got a healthy, safe working environment. So thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you.
thank you.